President Trump is speaking out on the murder of a Ukrainian refugee in Charlotte, North Carolina. It was a man out on cashless bail, and he is seen stabbing her in the neck. Here's what the president said.
There are evil people, and we have to confront that. I just give my love and hope to the family of the young woman who was stabbed this morning or last night in Charlotte by a madman, a lunatic. Just got up and started. It's right on the tape. Not really watchable because it's so horrible, but just viciously stabbed. She's just sitting there. So they're evil people. We have to be able to handle that. If we don't handle that, we don't have a country.
So in this case, that suspect had more than a dozen prior arrests. He also served a 5-year jail stint for armed robbery. All this raising the obvious questions. Why was he roaming the streets? Why was he on that train to begin with?
And Alexandria Hoff is at the White House. Good morning, Alex.
Well, good morning to you. You know, the immediate answer to that question is because the judge allowed him to write a written promise that he would show up for his next court date. Of course, that did not happen. But there is still a larger question of why in all of this, because in the last decade, Decarlos Brown Jr. had clearly spiraled into psychiatric and criminal chaos. Even his own mother told local outlets that she felt he should have never been out in the streets. But after he was released from involuntary commitment, she had no obvious secondary system that would have prevented him from boarding that Charlotte light rail on August 22nd, where he then brutally and randomly took the life of 23-year-old Irina Zaruska. She was dressed in her work uniform, as you can see. She had arrived in the U.S. from Ukraine 3 years ago for a safer life. Here's more from President Trump yesterday.
We're going to get to the end of it. And, you know, when you have horrible killings, you have to take horrible actions.
Well, Brown's criminal history was lengthy and disordered. His earliest offenses were dismissed. There was probation that had been violated, a jail sentence cut short by 6 months. In January, another arrest. He was then released on the same day. On July 28th, the judge requested a mental capacity evaluation to proceed with those January charges. Now, despite the story not picking up in the mainstream immediately, FBI Director Kash Patel writes the FBI has been investigating the Charlotte train murder from day one. And Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says his agencies also launched investigation.
I can't pull money today from their transit system. I actually have to do an investigation. That's what the law requires. We start that investigation tomorrow, and I guarantee all your viewers that if I find what I think I'm going to find, they are not going to have your federal tax dollars going to their public transportation system. Zero, none, nada.
Now, the mother of Brown, he told WSOC, a local station, that her son had been diagnosed with schizophrenia, and really she had no recourse for when his behavior became aggressive. There was nowhere for him to go, guys.
All right, Alex, thank you.
So the city of Charlotte, incidentally, holds its mayoral primary today. Now, the incumbent mayor is Vi Lyle. She issued a statement announcing more security on the light rail trains, and she also called out the courts for releasing the suspect after repeated arrests. However, that's a sharp turn from her previous statement, which blamed the stabbing on a mental health crisis. She did not mention anything about criminal history in her initial response. So now the city's Fraternal Order of Police gave this blistering response. Here's their statement. We've been complaining about this and calling for action. It's been met with crickets. We are glad the media is not letting this story go. If it's uncomfortable to read, good. It's supposed to be uncomfortable. This poor young girl was killed because of failures in a system designed to protect her, end quote. Now, the mayor, Lyles, faces 4 primary challengers in that vote today in Charlotte.
And some on the city council calling out the systematic failures that enabled this crime. And here's council member Edwin Peacock earlier.
We have a court system that's overwhelmed. We have a North Carolina system that is deinstitutionalized individuals that really should have hospitalization and permanent around-the-clock care. I hope this wakes up a conversation not just around the mental health topic, which has certainly been talked about a lot, but we have to actually follow that with actions. And as sad as this tragedy is, I hope that it will shine a bright light on it.
And the city council released a statement saying, quote, we spent several hours discussing the security measures that have been taken to enhance transit and community safety, not only in response to this horrific tragedy, but also over the past year. Safety has been a key focus area of the council and will continue to be.
So I want to bring in Andy McCarthy and get the legal analysis on this. Andy, good morning to you. I want to mention a statement from a Republican Congressman Fine. He says, I'm going to introduce legislation that will hold judges accountable when violent repeat offenders they release commit new crimes. It's easy easy to release criminals when you're protected by an armed bailiff at all times. The rest of us aren't so lucky. Those 12 judges that released Decarlos Brown Jr. should have their day in court, too. He said 12 plus there. Is this a state case or a federal case?
It's a state case, Bill, which is why I think you heard the Transportation Secretary, Sean Casey, talk about pulling money. If they actually had a statute, I appreciate what Kash Patel said about how the Bureau has been investigating from the start. It's a good thing for the Bureau to do, to lend its investigative resources to state investigations. But if they had a good federal crime here, like a murder that happened on a transit system that was in interstate commerce, as opposed to this one, which is wholly in North Carolina, they'd obviously bring the federal charge.
I want to just show you Decarlos Brown's record under North Carolina Attorney General Stein. 2021, he was on parole. 2022, was arrested, assault on a female, and injury to property. 2024, arrested twice for misusing 911. And there's just I think the graphic of all of his mugshots is very powerful. There was also this passed in North Carolina, a task force for racial equity in criminal justice. This is on a statewide level to address racial inequities, propose reforms, increase accountability in police and in courts. And they had these 4 working groups. This was launched after George Floyd and Breonna Taylor's deaths amid national protests. And one of the things I think is interesting about this is that the mom also blamed the system for not keeping her son in jail, and there's no recourse for her.
Yeah, Dana, this is a problem 50 years in the making. But, 2 things you can say about it. First is progressives have made it very difficult, and this is a problem across the country, to maintain people who have obvious mental problems and who are a threat to society in custody. But, the second thing I'd point out, I'm always constrained to do this, unfortunately, is that these politicians didn't spontaneously appear. They were elected by, the people who live in the cities that are plagued by the dysfunction that we see on the streets, which is tragic and crazy to me, but it's a fact. These policies are put in by people who are elected by the people in these cities.
Well, that's in Charlotte. We're going to talk about Chicago in a moment because the Trump administration is going to make a move there starting real soon, hours really. But in California, the Supreme Court gave the green light for the Trump administration to continue removing criminal illegals from Los Angeles. You wrote on this just yesterday. Here's your headline: an immigration raids case. Supreme strike a blow for common sense. The way I read it, it's a temporary victory. Why is it common sense, Andy?
Well, it's common sense, Bill. I was a federal prosecutor for a long time. I did mafia cases and, jihadist terrorism cases. If I had arrested in those cases a bunch of guys who looked like me and were named McCarthy, people would sense that there was something not quite right about that. And, that's because it's common sense that in some instances you're allowed to take ethnic and language proficiency and other type of those characteristics into account. Nobody gets arrested, prosecuted, or moved against in the system solely on the basis of immutable characteristics. They have to be coupled with articulable facts that a person has actually committed a crime, or it's reasonable to suspect that. But that's all the Supreme Court said yesterday. You're allowed to take these things into account to develop the totality of the circumstances to suspect someone.
All right, Andy, we'll continue to focus on. Yeah, it does make sense. What's interesting is how many different cases are up in the air right now, and trying to get these things to land so that President Trump can move forward, or if the answer from the court is a no, readjust, because in the meantime, we have people who are, afraid to get on the subway system or the light rail, wherever they are. And it's not just New York, and it's not just Charlotte. Talking Denver, we have Chicago, LA, of course, San Francisco. We could go on. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.